What's up, everyone? We're back and we're going to discuss kind of one of my old videos, but really just a question. I had a really interesting comment on my Flogger video. He really wanted to know where I got all this information from, right? Like a source to a degree. And I got to be honest with you, I don't have a source, right? But I do have some extensive knowledge on the subject, and I'm going to explain what I think about it. And so we'll go into a lot of different deals about how all this pressure of catching fish off bed and really what it comes down to. Like, is it affecting our fisheries or is it not? And I'm gonna kind of dive into that. This is kind of really going back to all the fish being caught off beds at the St. Lawrence River. Why I bring that up is because I can see how maybe some people from the north, for certain situations, would believe it could be hurting their legs. But I'm just going to give you all a different outlook from someone down in the south, and I'm going to go into why the north and the south it might differ, and why we look at our perspective is way different. So let's jump on in. And guys that follow me all the time, y'all know my backyard. Yeah, it looks kind of weird, right? I got some stumps going on back here. One of my big 70-year-old pine trees got struck by lightning a month ago, so I finally had some guys come back here a couple days ago, like 3 days ago, and cut down 3 of my pine trees. So my yard looks pretty shaky right now, man. They had to cut down some pretty big ones. But let's jump on in. Okay, back to the St. Lawrence River. It's a big deal about floggers and guys, you know, using a flogger to catch fish off beds, and it really just showcased how many fish were being caught off beds and things like that. Let me start off by saying this has always been going on. I'm not saying the floggers have always been going on, but catching fish off beds, this is not a new thing. What Bassmaster or MLF or any of these tournaments start showing you, it kind of shows the weekend fisherman or just the guy who doesn't really fish that much, that this is how a lot of these tournaments go and how a lot of people fish. And you might not fish this way, but it's happening a lot. And so this has kind of always been going on. It's just highlighting and showcasing it, that when one of these tournaments comes, guys are doing this. What happens is it shows all these fish getting caught, and somewhere in the midst it takes one comment here, one comment there, and then it's just like an avalanche, man. Guys start popping in about you know, they're hurting our fishery and all these things. And what happens is maybe their fishery is not doing very good, and they think it's because of this reason or that reason. Well, I'm just going to kind of let y'all know what I think about it. First off, the main reason, like the number one main reason that they caught so many fish on the St. Lawrence River and it looked so bad, is because there's a lot of fish in that place. Like, they're not hurting it. There's that many. It's like the number one smallmouth place in the country. Of course they're going to catch a bunch of them. When they used to come down to Falcon and Amstead and Rayburn and in its like heydays, right? Guy, like, they were here a couple years ago in Rayburn. Guys were catching 100 a day. We fish for our fish 365 days a year. Like, we don't have an off time. We don't have a winter where we can't be on the water. We don't have ice, right? We get to go fish 365 days a year. So in May, after we've been, you know, crushing on them for the last 5 months, guys are still catching 100 a day. Like, that's how many fish are in our lakes. Like, good lakes have a giant population of fish. That place is big. I've been there. Like, it's a big river. It goes into Lake Erie. It comes from Canada. I mean, the thing is huge. It can handle it. I promise it can handle it. And what they're doing is they're catching fish and putting them right back. I mean, MLF was doing that. So, I mean, even if you were only catching 5 of them a day, you saw how many fish they were catching throughout the day. 5's sure not going to hurt it. So that's my first deal. Like I said, a good fishery can handle almost anything we throw at them. Okay, so that's number one, right? That there's a lot of fish in a places like that can handle it. They're fertile. They're always can take care of themselves, right? it's very hard for people to mess that up. Now, when I say people, us just fishing, right? Normal fishing habits, right? I'm not talking about pollution or anything like that. Now, I also don't recommend all of us going out there and keeping all of our fish, okay? I think it is detrimental. The reason there's limits on these places is because most people do throw them back. So when a couple people go out there and catch 5 and stuff here and there, the lakes look good. So states and stuff can regulate these places because we're doing a good job of not keeping them all the time, and we are letting them go. And so it's good. I don't believe that if they change the regulations of we're able to keep more and everyone just kept them all, I do think most of these, it would change. I would think over the years, and it wouldn't happen at once, and this is the bad problem. It would happen later on once they realize that like some of these populations might be getting lower in some of the lakes. Maybe not the really like the best ones, but other ones would be beginning to be affected. I bring that up for a reason, okay? I live down here in Texas. We border Louisiana. And I'm gonna pick on you Louisiana guys, but like, I mean, I do this only because 95% of the guys I know from Louisiana don't like what's going on in Louisiana. Like, they complain about it more than we do. And Texas has done a very good job. We have a lot of good lakes. And over the years, we have just done a really good job advocating for catch and release. Like, maybe better than any other state out there, right? I mean, we're always pushing it. We're always pushing it. And so we have these phenomenal lakes that stay good, and it's really because of how we manage our fisheries. Louisiana does a horrible job. Horrible guy. And like I said, I got a ton of buddies from Louisiana. They're probably all like applauding me making this video because their fisheries are doing horrible, because their mentality over there has always been, I'm going to catch everything no matter what and keep them. Like, they could go out there and catch as many bass as possible, and they're like, oh, let's just keep them all. And what's crazy is they live in some of the best, like the most fertile place in the world is Venice, Louisiana. Man, I mean, for saltwater fishing, you could go out there and catch redfish and all kinds of trout and everything until you can't see straight. They could go catch 100 of the biggest, redfish you ever wanted, and I guarantee if they caught 3 bass this big, they would keep those 2. Like, that mentality is tough. Like, you could go catch 1,000 crappie and catch 3 black bass, and they'd keep those 3 black bass with 1,000 crappie. I'm not saying it's not the right, but what happens is that mentality starts to spread over, and it's why their fisheries are not that good. I mean, they'll tell you they're horrible. I mean, they just keep everything, and it's that mentality. Texas has done a better job of, like, we can, pushing crappie and other things to keep and putting the bass back. I live over here by Rayburn. I have 3 of the best lakes around me, okay? They're all within 20 minutes of me. One of them, you can only keep fish that are under 14 inches. If it is over, if you think it is a 13-pounder, you may keep it just to try to get it certified. You're not allowed to keep anything over 14 inches ever, and you better hope that it's really close to 13 or you could get in trouble. So like, you can't like keep an 11-pounder. They'll probably might write you a ticket going, oh, I thought it was 13. You better hope it was close. They have another lake that you can't keep anything over 18, and I think another lake that you can't keep anything until it's over 18. Like, we have lakes around here that are managed to where it's a trophy bass lake, and like, they're the 3 closest lakes to me, and every one of them is regulated differently to help promote the lake. I mean, no one goes there to keep fish. I mean, that's how they regulate it. And that's only 3. Like I said, 3 of the 3 are that close to me, and they are phenomenal. They all have fish over at least 13. I know some of them have a couple 15s out of there. So I mean, that's why we have these fisheries, because we've done a great job of managing that. Now, what I'll say to that is these are also good lakes. I know a lot of people are going to say, hey, we have these lakes that aren't that good, and they're catching these spawning fish out of these lakes, and how is that hurting it, helping it? Here's what I'll say to that, guys. I've been sight fishing my entire life. I've been looking in the water and studying fish to a degree that way, okay? And I say that because I've been going to the same lakes over and over and over and over, and I see the same things happening all over. First off, I personally believe that me looking in the water in the springtime can tell you how good your lake is, okay? And we have had lakes like Amstead and all these lakes, you know, go phenomenal and go bad and go phenomenal, and I get in these arguments all the time. Toledo is one of the same ones too. They're like, oh, those fish live there, you know, we're just not doing a good job of catching them when the fishing goes up and down, right, over the years. And I tell them, and I'll argue with you till I'm blue in the face, and here's why. Every one of those lakes, when it is good, I see them spawning. Like, I see them everywhere. Like, it's the best sight fishing I've ever seen in my life. Like, I can go catch 6 to 10 pounders all over Toledo and Amstead and all these places. It's like you just can't go you can't go 5 feet without seeing a fish on a bed. And then all of a sudden, when the fishing goes down that year, and I tell people, hey, they don't live there anymore, they're like, oh, they're just out there deep and people aren't figuring out how to catch them. And I'm like, well, I can go down the bank in the springtime and not see them. And I know that sounds really simple. It is that simple, guys. It's like that everywhere we go. We can always tell how good a fishery is by going down the bank in the springtime looking at beds. Like, no matter what, those fish are going to push up there to spawn. Not all of them, and some of them you can't see, but like when you see 500 a day as opposed to 30 a day, it's such a big difference. It's crazy. So I'm letting y'all know that, like, the reason they saw and caught that many fish at the St. Lawrence River is because they caught about 0.0000001% of the fish in that lake. Like, they did nothing to that lake. That place has that many big ones, because when I'm at Toledo and I catch 7-pounders, it's because I saw 400 3-pounders and I didn't even fish for those. I mean, it's amazing how many fish are there, and that's only the ones I'm seeing in a small little section of the lake, and that's for like 3 or 4 days. People don't realize too, we have a lake down here that I was catching them in February off beds. I sometimes do some videos off that place. On an average day, I'm gonna see over 100 fish, okay? I can go out there the next day and sometimes see 100 more fish, different ones. And then the next day I can go see 100 more different ones. I went out there this May, and it was mid-May, to do a video on something, and I got up there shallow for some reason. Next thing I know, I caught 6 fish off beds in like 30 minutes in May. They literally spawned all through February, March, April, and almost to the end of May for 4 months out there. And at times I was seeing 100 new fish every day. And this place is not big. I'm literally going over the same banks and seeing different fish every day. So people just don't realize sometimes, if you're not out there 7, 8, 9, 10 days in a row, you can see what happens over that 10-day span, not just 1 day or 2 days. So me being out there, you know, allows me to see what happens over that many days, okay? So it means something. Now that's one part of it. The second part is this. I don't think people realize how many fish people pass up when they're on beds. There are certain lakes out there, and smallmouth fishing, I will say, is not one of them, but largemouth fishing, like, our easiest time to win a tournament is in the springtime, to be honest with you, because especially if they're on beds, because it's very hard to catch a big bag when they're on beds unless you're sight fishing. So people don't realize how many times they're going down and passing up giants all day long because they don't bite on the first cast. They might not bite on the 100th cast. Some of them hardly don't bite at all. So like, I can't tell you how many times that, like, you're flipping at 20, 30 fish on beds you know, going down a bank, and not one of them meets, and then one of them meets somewhere. You just didn't realize it was on a bed and you caught it. And that was the one you caught, but you just passed 30 of them. Those 30 probably will never get caught. They will make their beds, they will lay their eggs, they will spawn, and they will get out of there. And guys will pass them up all day long, flipping at them, not realizing that those fish will never bite. And they're fine. It happens all over the lake, everywhere we go, constantly. I promise. Like, it's amazing. There's been fish there on stumps that we've seen for 5 days. We'll see guys go by that stump every day and fish, like not realizing there's a fish on that bed by that stump, and they just never catch them. That's going on most of the time. So there's a lot of things going on in the springtime that people just don't realize. I mean, one, they are hard to catch sometimes, so you're not catching them. They're in places that people don't throw yet either. That's the funny thing is over the years I've gotten really good at finding some really obscure sight fishing, some places that people would never think to look. Somewhere along the way, we took our sport, we were worrying about it way too much, that we had this big giant effect on things, and I don't think we do. Now, I say all this with one thing. There's a difference between all of us trying to do the right thing and then us coming in there and doing the wrong thing. And what I mean by that is most tournament fishermen, right, we go through there, we're trying to keep all of our fish alive, we're trying to, you know, take care of them when we catch them, we're trying not to like beat them up and just stomp on them and, you know, kill them and do everything else like that. So most of us try really hard to help the fish. The catching fish off beds is pretty much, I would say, on a priority list of the top 100 things that I would have it prioritized. I would have it probably at about 100. I think Mother Nature is 100% number one. I think 2 would be people, but not fishermen. Like, I would say like pollution, like pollution from not individuals, but like, you know, things upriver of places, spraying lakes, right? I mean, we have a big problem with these guys coming around spraying our lakes with grass and things like that. I think that is way more detrimental. Like, that is it might even be worse than Mother Nature on killing fisheries, right? And Mother Nature is pretty much what I think about is floods, droughts, hurricanes, things like that. I think places like Kentucky Lake, you know, anything run by like TVA, and I'm not saying TVA in general, but anywhere where people control water levels, right? And this is going on more and more, and it's going to get worse, guys. It's not going to get better, and here's why. The problem is every time we have floods and we flood people out, right? Because the people are going to come first. So we start flooding places, not on purpose, but it happens. They're going to continually start messing with how it used to be, right? Of how the water levels used to be. Grand Lake is a prime example. They start lowering the water levels and keeping a different summertime high and low, or a wintertime high and low. And what happens is what used to be in the willow trees are not now in the willow trees, and they won't ever let anything get high. And if it does get high, and it could happen at the wrong time, and they drop it, right? And they drop it so quick while they're spawning. See, we're only hurting a couple fish when we catch them, but if you got 10% of the bass population up there in 2 foot of water, and they drop the water by 2 foot over 2 days, yeah, that's hurting the population. That's killing it way worse than guys going out there and catching a couple fish. You're talking about almost an entire group of fish messing up their entire spawn. I wish the guys in some of these other parts of the country, and this is why I bring up the north-south, could see how other parts of the country are doing it. And that's my only thing, is because they get on their high horse and they're trying to stop fishing here at this times of the year and all these things, and I'm like, man, y'all already have a shortened fishing period, and I'm telling you, we're down here doing it 365 days a year, crushing on them. Every single day there's people on Rayburn and some of our lakes, just and our lakes are fine. Like, they're fine. Here's my point to you guys that are trying to cut down on people fishing in the springtime or doing anything like that. I would suggest stop taking fishing away from people and just educate them, right? Educate them on releasing fish. That way you can fish all the time. The worst thing in the world is for a guy to say, hey, we shouldn't be able to fish in the springtime. That's the worst ideas in the world. That's horrible. Instead, teach them to maybe release fish, help the fishery out, then we can fish all year long. But just advocating for us to not fish in the springtime or catch fish off beds, that's not a good solution. It's a very closed-minded way to think. Like I said, let's just go out there, do a good job educating people on catch and release, and getting that in the mindset. Then we can fish 365 days a year. Pretty simple, guys. But that's my thoughts on catching fish off beds in the springtime. Is it science? No, but I think I bring up some really good points, and I think I've been looking at it for a really, really long time. And where we live and how we do things, it's working. Oh, and if you're wondering why my stumps are so big, that's for another video, but I told him to leave them like that. I gotta set them on fire, but I gotta do it a certain way. So anyways, see y'all next time. And like I said, I think my next video is the Alabama rig. I gotta do the Alabama rig. It's coming, guys, I promise. See y'all.